Hello, everyone. Good morning. Wow. Okay. I see your happy faces for this Friday after the 1st of May day. And why not to speak today about a very important topic on roadmap on tech and product. And happy to see you all. If possible, as usual, the mics are off, the cameras are on so that we can see your faces, even though they are very maybe digesting something already that will be on the slides. And also in order to recognize you, but I see that probably all of you already have put your name together with the name of your project inside the name that is shown in Zoom. Well, and yeah, week 4 is not just about learning management system basics and not just about AI that we have learned on the 30th of April, so learned on Wednesday, but it's also about going more than deeper beyond let's put it like that, beyond the concept of roadmap. And I am very glad to present today's speaker, Iphigenia. Um, to be short, Ify. I don't know how you prefer, but I will give the floor to
Let's not
you.
make their lives more complicated. They have big plans in front of them, I guess, if they're in this program. So let's go for Ify. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, then, Ify, for for the people who knows the drill. And yeah, then Ify, the floor is yours. Let's go. I'm very excited to see what's today is all about.
Likewise, although I kind of know what today's all about, you're all here to learn how to roadmap a tech product. Or what I also call the stairway to heaven, and how to build products that are actually sellable, because at the end of the day, having an idea is good, but you need to monetize on it. You want to make your own business out of it. Just a short overview of today's agenda for the next 6 to 90 minutes. Depends also how long the hands-on exercise is going to take us. We're starting with some intro and definitions. Basically, who am I and why is it me who gets to talk to you about this? We're going a bit from praxis to theory, and that's not a typo. We're really going from praxis to theory of a tech product roadmap. We have then a hands-on exercise, and then we have a discussion and some closing remarks. Briefly about myself, maybe you can see parts of it in the background. I was raised by an artist mother and an engineer father. So this floor looks like this, and the other one is full of my dad's gadgets. And my first product roadmap was that of building actually a bird house. I was a big fan of the Doctor House series. I don't know if I have any friends in the room. And I was also fascinated by how technology could be used to fix and to help the human body. And this is what led me to go to Vienna 10 years ago, start my studies and my career there. Worked on diagnostic devices for as long as my career started, for big companies like Philips, the Austrian Institute of Technology, and also research in Technical University of Vienna and Technikum Wien. Only in 2022 found my own startup, which is Comprovi. And I can tell you my life has never been the same ever since, because entrepreneurship is what really kickstarts and skyrockets your skills, because maybe you're officially a co-founder and a CEO, CTO, C whatever O, but actually you're doing also everything else at the same time. And it's a skill set you usually don't develop if you have a specific role in the industry or if you're only researching. I was only 25 when I submitted 2 million's worth of successful grants. And when I started navigating the industry as a CTO, of course, that age is quite exotic, I would say, in biotech. Usually you start having those positions later in your career. But I'm a fan of the phrase, if you're ready for something, go for it and make your own opportunities, right? Because entrepreneurship at the end of the day gives you freedom, and freedom is really empowering. So yeah, 3 years ago, I started comprehending life with Comprovi, which was the biotech startup that I founded together with Dr. Elizabeth Pavis-Loré. And there we wanted to provide answers to actually one big question that I've kind of divided into. How can we treat diseases if we don't understand them? And how can we understand them if we keep testing on animals instead of human biology? And we really were focusing on a real major problem for a real major group of customers. Millions of animals are sacrificed each year to not produce millions of treatments. We have a 90% drug failure rate from the developmental phase to jumping to the clinic because, well, they respond differently on animals and differently on humans. So you lose a lot of time and money in the process. 80% of cosmetic products are removed from the market within 2 years, so a very high retention rate. 60% of the users have side effects within 3 weeks, and the list goes on. And basically, there is no in vitro solution that is bridging the gap that exists. And actually, that's exactly what we built for the largest organ of the human body, which is actually also the one to which we apply and expose so many products to, and that's the skin. Also relevant to so many industries, right? The medical, pharmaceutical, cosmetic, chemical one. So what we did is to make a human skin biochip that reacts the same way like your skin would and also moves when you apply products to it. So we have a very, very good prediction of how the safety and efficacy of these products would be. And we spent 14 years, 4 from my side and 10 from my co-founder in total to research something that we developed an MVP on in 9 months. But that's only half of the story, and the other half I'm going to tell you later. Let's jump to the topic. I would like to hear a bit from you. How do you define strategy? And what is a vision to you? Because that's kind of like the pre-step to the roadmap. You can raise your hands and we can, Irina, I think you can give them access.
Yeah, or just write in the
around.
chat in case. Yes,
Pratik. Yeah.
I think strategy is a systematic plan to achieve the objectives that we want to get for the organization. And vision is where do we see as a venture or as a company, where do we see ourselves in 10 years? What is our long-term vision where we are, what is the exact value addition that we are doing in the industry, whatever industry or sector we are working in?
I think you're muted, Pratik, or we didn't hear the last part of the...
So vision is about how do we picture ourselves after 10 years in our area of expertise where the company is working?
Absolutely. So it has definitely something to do with the long-term perspective. Any other?
We also have the answer in the chat in case. Well, I mean, strategy, tactical part derived from vision or mission, long-term goal, objective.
Yes.
Okay. We have Ali also.
Yes, thank you. I think the vision is, as mentioned, long-term, what you want to achieve and which direction you want to go. And strategy is defining the steps to reach that vision or the steps you have to take, the way you have to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other formulations, reformulations, add-ons? Okay, then I will add a question to the question. Which of the both do you think needs to be more stable?
Vision.
What do you mean by more stable? I mean, it's like a very controversial question, I would say.
It is. But the truth is that for many, many startups, for many initiatives, what you start with is not what you end with. And of course, while your plan has X, Y, Z in it, you're always depending on the external factors to which you don't have a controlling power. So which of the two is most affected by it, which means which of the two should not be changed very often? What do you guys think?
I think if we think about the external environment and the factors, then both have to be flexible. Both have to change. Because if 5 years down the line, we feel that there is a different direction a company can take, we have to be flexible about both.
And we have a very beautiful word for it in the startup world, which is called pivot. So
That's right.
change your
Yeah.
direction when you see that basically you are at the end of the road and the only way to go is to take a turn. Absolutely, Pratik, I agree with you. But this was an answer like, it depends. Again, if we had to like say which of the two needs to be more stable, then the answer would be the vision should change less than the strategy is changing. Because the vision is what your company or your endeavor, your initiative identifies with, right? Where are you going? And the vision is a big part of the product roadmap, because without a vision, you don't know where you're going, basically. And this is where we come to kind of like the definition of what the roadmap is, right? It's a strategic communication tool. It states, you know, what you're doing and how you're doing it. It's exactly a statement of intent. It shows the direction, but it's not a promise, especially in early stage endeavors. It's user and problem oriented. So always integrate the end user and the target customer in all parts of the roadmap. Of course, it's cross-functional because, of course, we're talking here about how to create a technical product, but your product needs the marketing and it's the business. And at the end of the day, all of that is the team and all of that is the company. And at the end of the day, it's also a prioritization framework. So you want to build, I don't know, an airplane, but you can't do it all at once. You need to figure out what do you start with, what do you do now, and what you can leave for later. And that's very tricky. I'm curious to know a bit of your backgrounds. Do you guys have more of an engineering background? I guess it's a mixed room, but like, what is the majority of you guys doing? You can go in rounds. I'm really curious to know your backgrounds.
Or you can, again, use the chat, or maybe we can ask, like, you know,
you
what is your,
whatever
if you're an engineer background, raise your hands, or, you know, put some reaction. Okay, IT.
Mm-hmm. Product management. Mm-hmm. Physics and computing. Nice. Okay, so far I would say quite mixed. I would say some, okay, engineering, IT, tech knowledge, but mixed with market insights. So that's quite good. That's quite good. Exactly. Interesting. So I also try to give you a full picture of that, because there is no tech without marketing and sales. And of course, there is no business if you don't have a product. So everything goes hand in hand. And it's great that you guys have the complementary knowledge, most of you, to understand both. So what a roadmap isn't, going back to the definitions here, it's not set in stone. It can change, just like the strategy can. And also, as Pratik said, the vision, in case, you know, the external factors are forcing you to, or you're seeing that maybe your endeavor is not very successful. It's not a to-do list. That's more of what we call a backlog. And also, it's not a Gantt chart. And some of my students usually ask me what, you know, the difference is between a Gantt chart and a product roadmap. Can someone of you maybe explain this to me? What is the difference between a Gantt chart, maybe for some of you that have dealt with product management, or project management and have worked with Gantt charts, and what's the difference to a roadmap, knowing now you know what roadmaps are about?
We have again the raised hand of Pratik. So he's going to be a good student today.
I would really like if somebody else want to add, but I can add. I mean, Gantt chart is a very systematic project management tool. I mean, where everything is jotted down on the basis of deliverables and the timelines and the dependency. But roadmap is flexible. It's is the way you sometimes, I mean, as you said, pivot is absolutely needed in a daily life of a startup. So roadmap is a high level view of how do we reach from the start to the end. Over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have Alejandro also to add.
Yes, I would say roadmap is more like the high level view of how to get from the point that you're currently in to where you want to get. Gantt, I will say, is like scooping into small projects, like one by one. It's usually Gantt's usually for like a single project where it's divided like very specific tasks by every like very specific owners in a very specific time frame. Obviously, it can have some changes, but it's like a deeper view of a specific part of the roadmap, I would say.
You're both absolutely right. So if Gantt charts are more oriented on a daily basis and are needed, I would say, on a day-to-day basis, for the short-term goals and implementations, the roadmap basically incorporates and is twisted and built around the vision, so it covers more of the long-term parameters and aspects, and is built more on features and I would say how these different features and categories interact together on the timeline. And of course, it's a higher level. We're talking about monthly time windows or quarters even. Rules are made to be broken, they say. So this is one of my favorite things. A roadmap is not equals a roadmap. So in a team, in a cross-functional team, a roadmap will be something else to different people. Meaning, in the tech team, for example, the engineers and the implementators will see it as a timeline of the implementation logic, right? They're going to see, okay, what are the engineering steps to do here? Whereas the marketing team we'll see this more as a timing guide for GTM campaigns. The executive level will see this, for example, as where do my strategic steps come here into play? And when it comes to the HR, they're going to think of, okay, when is the right time to hire which people? Okay. Excuse me, just for 1 second, I have to check something in the presentation. I'm just making sure. Okay, perfect. Great. Sorry, guys, I'm back on sharing.
So that not all the secrets will be revealed at once, I guess, on the slide.
There was a small slight tweak. I didn't understand why that happened, but now kind of jumping into the structure of a product, a tech product roadmap, right? So it's a multidisciplinary process full of testing and iterations that should convey your vision, right? But most importantly, it should be oriented to real users with real problems. You're not developing to satisfy your ego and your dreams. You're developing to make people's lives easier. And yeah, also known as real people with a real hunger. And you'll know why I use that analogy in a bit. So step number one is you have an idea. You see a gap in the market. You're like, I know how I might bridge that. But the question is, of course, is this product doable? Can I implement this idea? And is it also wanted, right? In the end, we want sellable products. And what are the risks that I'm undertaking and undergoing in this process? Once you figure that out, you jump into the planning. You're planning all the resources, human, materials, but also methods. How are you going to do? What experiments are needed? What steps are needed? Also, what's the infrastructure I need? I don't know if any of you guys are in biotech, but labs are the key if you are about to develop a product. And if you're lucky to still be sheltered in a university and have access to those labs, lucky you. Otherwise, you need to plan the budget for that. And let me tell you, it's not cheap. IT guys that want to build apps and software and SaaS, great for you guys. You have zero infrastructure costs, almost, unless you want to have, a shared co-working space and so on and so forth. And I guess the same hurdle, but maybe more solvable, goes for engineering guys wanting to build products when it comes to manufacturing or prototyping. Although there are so many services nowadays, from anything from 3D printing to laser cutting to whatever. You have planned all of that. You have found your resources, and now you need to start implementing. And out of that comes something which is the core of the roadmap, which is the MVP, or the so-called minimal viable product. This is the most simple form of your idea. It's like taking sticks and kind of putting them together to form something like a house. It should not be perfect. It should just really present your core idea. And it should be also introduced to the user so that you can get feedback and adapt your tech to that. And of course, this is also where the looping process starts. This is not like a segment and a process with a clear start and a clear finish, because the user feedback that you get and that you should be getting all the time from the beginning, from the moment you have your idea and you do your research, right? Ask your potential customers, do they want it? Are they willing to pay for it? Now the loop starts from the introduction to the user to, again, the planning. Why I didn't put the loop to the implementation is because for the implementation, you need the resources. So once you get your feedback, once your users have said what they want, what they don't want, they've shown what they can do and what they can't do with your product, you go back, you plan, and at some point you have reached something that I would say it's not worth investing more time and money in, and it's ready for the market because the market accepts it as it is. And of course, you have also in between steps, because again, for different industries, you have different intermediate steps like regulatory issues that you need to solve, certification, CE marks, you need the IP process also that you need to have finished ideally before market entry, because then your competitive advantage is highly at risk. And also you're not going to be able to secure investment easily. I'm putting it easily because honestly, who has an IP at the beginning of their startup? Not many, really not many. So having an IP in place, intellectual property, meaning patent, will really make your life easier for the market entry, but also to get investments to finance your endeavor. And if I had to comment and kind of put really easy tags on all of these steps, I would say for the idea and research, right? Think of this. Would your enemy be fascinated by your idea? Don't get feedback by people that support you and like you and are on the same sphere with you, because maybe they will not tell you the whole truth. When you're planning, please be paranoid and try to have backups. And don't be cheap, especially when it comes to human resources, especially when you're hiring. when it comes to the implementation, there we need to differentiate between business to business and business to customer. So for example, I say, when you're developing your product, is this something your mom would know how to use if it's B2C? And if you're B2B, is it something that your buyer's intern would be able to use? And this phase is also really not too early to start marketing. You cannot do marketing when you're already at the point that you need to talk to your first early adopters, your first customers. You need to start before. So as soon as you see some positive spikes that you might have something coming together, spread the word, find and identify who the early adopters could be. And hey, if you don't have anything by the end of the day, then you still made some useful contacts that maybe are willing to wait for you to fix whatever is not working. But it's never too early to start marketing once you've reached the implementation phase and you have positive spikes. Last but not least, the product is not going to be ready by this phase, especially in the first trial of it. But your potential customers or the target groups, they need to see it. You need to make yourself visible out there. And I say it's like showing up for a job interview in gym clothes. Of course, it's not ideal, but you're there and you're presenting yourself and they get to know who Ifigenia, Irina, or Pratik or Alejandro is, right? At the end of the day. Now, a roadmap is so differently from one industry to the next, from one company to the next. We talked about this with Irina when we were thinking of constructing this workshop. And I was like, how can we put something together that covers all your guys' needs? Because I assume each one of you has some kind of different product in mind. And I took the next thing that is closest to or that would generalize it, and that's cooking. Honestly, a product roadmap is very similar to a cooking process. And since my roots are Greek, of course, I went for something with baklava. And honestly, I have never seen a baklava pistachio cheesecake. So the question is, I would like to introduce this to the market, right? But do people need a pistachio baklava cheesecake? Should have been a C here, not an S, but whatever. Let's call it the PBC, which sounds like a disease or I don't know, software for the sake of the abbreviation. The PBC, isn't it in the market because it's not needed, or it's not in the market because no one else had this brilliant idea yet? The only way to get a hold to this answer is to be proactive. Go to where your customers are. If it's fairs, if it's networking events, go and try to understand their needs and their problems. Understand how you can offer your solution to improve and enhance their lives and where exactly, right? And this is also the phase where you're like, okay, I would like to launch this PBC, but what are the risks that I'm taking? And trust me, it's more than just founding the company. It's more than just your GmbH would cost you. So prepare yourself for the journey ahead. And a good way to do that is the so-called SWOT analysis. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And there are very nice templates of that on the internet, and really go through all of these aspects. Honestly, you need money for most of the products that you will want to create. Again, software guys, you have it a bit easier, but if you really want to go into hardware and industries like biotech, even chemtech, and so on and so forth, you need money. And who's going to give you money? It's either the grants or the investors. And what they both want to see is that you've thought this through. So the good news is you have no way but to do your SWOT analysis and define your risks, because being aware of them makes you a credible founder to invest in and support. Planning. Okay, so we said we're going to do our pistachio baklava cheesecakes. What do we need? I tried to put most of the ingredients there, but please do not take them and try out. I had to leave some of them out to fit them in this template. The question is, are there any ingredients that are maybe too exotic to find in your environment? Coming back to the real tech world, if you are getting some of your materials from countries like China or Israel or anything that is not national, where you would need to be very aware of anything of the global politics, basically, because like in the times of Corona, or now with everything that is happening in the US, for example, that really changes your access to these materials. And make sure to define your autonomy and also your dependability. What can you provide for yourself? And what is it that you're depending on, and who is it you're depending from? Try to not have many dependencies, but a perfect world doesn't exist, and voila, you're going to have some, but be aware of them. Also in terms of, for example, machinery, equipment, same thing, right? What would you need as a base? And what would you need maybe later, but it's like a nice to have, exactly. It's the must have, should have, could have, prioritize, right? It's called this must-go method. And also as developers, and I'm talking mostly to the engineers out there, because we love developing and we love the product so much that we're like, it could do this and this and that and blah, blah. And you get lost in the 1,000 features that the product could have. But which of those can transform your business, or in the first phase, even give you a business? What's the core feature that you should go for? And latest now, it's a time to make a business plan, because at the end of the day, you have to monetize, and you should do that by not being cheap. As I said before, especially in hiring, time is money. And as a startup, you don't have much of any of these. Favorite part, implementation. Get your hands dirty, put the ingredients together and make the batter and really taste it. I think I do that. I don't know if you guys do that, but I always taste to see, is it sweet enough? Is it da-da-da? Which means include your target customers, your early adopters, even here. Think of them while you're making your product, and not what you think they need, but what you figured out in step number 1 while you were researching, what they told you they needed. And this is where the proof of concept kind of kicks in, because for me, there's also a difference between them, right? A proof of concept, which is then in the technology readiness level. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but actually NASA came up with that the table or definition years ago to kind of be able to differentiate between the different readiness, technological readiness levels of products. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, a TRL is a proof of concept is a technology readiness level of 3, which means it works, but it still has not been tested in an operational environment. And there are more steps to that as you go closer to the product that is ready to be commercialized, right? Eureka, it works, yes, but if you need to present it to a customer, you also need to put like a bow on it, right? And that's in the MVP. And that's so different because, again, software versus hardware. Software, if the code on the back end, kind of does what it's supposed to do for its core function, and on the front end, it's, I would say, appealing enough and is not complicated in the way that the user knows how to interact with it, great. You don't need to go and build the whole full subtle thing. But in the terms of a hardware, this is why hardware people are more resistant to when are we launching the MVP, because it needs to look nice and it needs to work from within, and that's a bit more complicated and it needs more resources than coding. And this is also the time for you to start thinking of scalability. Why? You have taken the eggs and the flour and you made your batter. Yes, but could you also make 1 million pieces out of these materials? And also, if you're building, for example, a product that needs to go through certifications, approvals, are the materials that you're using now adequate or the right ones for scaling up? Again, I know biotech best, so I'm going to give you an example. Especially in the world of organ on chips, there is a silicone that is widely used in academia, but that silicone cannot be translated into mass industrial production. And it is a big bottleneck in all organ on chip companies that spinned off from academia to actually scale up. They need to change the material of their device, but guess what? Changing the material to which you know exactly how the cells and the biology is going to interact does not mean that the new material that you took is going to interact the same way. And this is, for example, the same with different kind of products. For example, if you have a heat-resisting material that worked perfectly for you in the proof of concept, but you figured out, hey, the manufacturer of this only can produce less that I need to scale up. So I need to go for another manufacturer that does not have this exact material, and it can be one little chemical thing in its composition that completely changes the thing for you. So make sure the material you're using is scalable. The processes are most of the time more easily translatable than the materials there. Voila, user introduction. And I don't have the pistachio baklava cheesecake here because, as we said, an MVP is not a full product. So you only have the sweet batter. You're introducing it to your early adopters. Yes, but don't think big from the beginning. Try to, depending on the product, go for, I would say, small to medium companies, but also those that would have the tendency to go for this. So there are some that are known for cooperating with startups and are in need of these emerging technologies because guess what? We say their hair is on fire. And when their hair is on fire, when they have a pressing problem, they really are not picky about how perfect the solution is. They just need a solution. And imagine, I mean, when your hair is on fire, you need something like water or this, we call it Feuerlöschen in German. What's it called? Fire extinguisher. But you don't have a water bucket or a fire extinguisher, you have a brick. That's your MVP. And your early adopter should be so desperate that they take the brick and they really try to put the fire out with that. But they want it. So analyze thoroughly the market and start with a medium companies. That's like the sweet spot. Even the small ones that have the right resources to, if not buy and become like your biggest customers, maybe cooperate with you, maybe offer you, I would say, complementary benefits. This is also a win, and this is also a way to grow, not just by selling, but also by cooperating. When you are introducing your batter, your MVP, really watch and don't pitch. As entrepreneurs and as people behind the product, we love talking about it, but listen and really try to be transparent also with how good or how bad what you've built is. Because remember, it's not the MVP you want to sell at the end of the day, it's a finalized product. Your MVP is just the first step to do that. So when you're getting the feedback, right, try to look for patterns and not opinions. So, of course, maybe you give me the brick and I want a yellow brick. I don't want your simple plain red brick. But is the color really the main feature you want to go there? Probably not. So careful there with the wishes versus the needs. And a very, very interesting point that not a lot of people talk about is the fact, how is your MVP presented? Is it something that you give to the customer and they interact with it, like they would do, for example, with the software, with an app, or even with like, let's say, the next generation of a phone, whatever that is, if it's a foldable one or whatever? Or is it something like a service where the customer, for example, gives you a coat to clean and you have your patented state-of-the-art cleaning service, and they don't get to see the infrastructure, how it looks, and so on and so forth. Why I'm saying it is because it really changes how much effort you put in the presentation, and also it's very important for the patent. A very good friend of mine who is a founder of a climate tech startup, they said that even after they moved past an MVP, so imagine they had this, I would say, mostly fully developed product, the customers were trying to open it and figure out the, how it was built, and their patent was in process. It was not granted yet. These are situations you don't want to be in. And they were installing sensors to see if the box had been opened, and they were so skeptical if, they screening who they were talking to and so on and so forth. This is a stress you really don't want to have. So this is why the IP is such a big topic. Think how you're offering your MVP. Does it leave the house? Doesn't it leave the house? How easy is it for your competitors, but even customers that might want to adapt that technology for whatever reason? How easy is it for them to steal it while your IP, while your patent is not in place, right? Actually, we covered a lot from the MVP already. I just wanted to recap the fact that it's basically the core of the product roadmap, and then without it, the roadmap is just a theory, right? Because at the end of the day, again, without a product, you don't have a business. Product also meaning services, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a bit nerdy, and there is this meme that has been going around for a long time, because there are so many discussions as to when is it the right time to release the MVP. And what this meme kind of says is that the least experienced founder, so the so-called midwit, the stupid one, and the most experienced executive will launch it fast, whereas this averaged IQ'd guy will make this, will think everything through and make sure it's perfect because, oh my God, it's a reputation. Yes, it is your reputation, which means part of the reputation is the visibility. If you're not seen in the market that is so highly dominated nowadays by the big players and the newcomers, you're going to be lost in it. But the 20-page strategy dog guy isn't always wrong, because when you release the MVP cannot be the same for different industries. Software guys, again, my God, you're so lucky. Same for fintech and some types of hardware, but for industries like climate tech, biotech, medtech, everything that, kind of, if it doesn't work right, you may be killing people or putting their health in jeopardy. There we usually have longer MVP cycles. And for example, for us, 9 months was quite turbo, actually. Roadmaps are not equals roadmaps. So if you look for templates out there, if you really want to, kind of find one and start entering your features and categories and everything, you're going to find a dozen. I just picked 2 that were interesting to me for different reasons. And the question is actually back to you now. Which one would you choose? Have a look at them. And where's the difference in all of these?
Okay. We have we have in the chat the first
Oh, we
comments,
have also
but
some questions in the chat. I would suggest that we maybe, Pratik, I see you've asked a lot of questions. I would suggest that we take it after this question. Sequence versus not. Option 2 would be better suited to us, the one below.
Also have Alejandro's hand. Maybe Alejandro, you want to comment?
Yes.
But yeah, one of them is a concatenated event. So one to get to the second point, you have to go to the first and already finish it. And the first one is more like independent task. So probably I will use a combination of both of them, not just like one of them, depending on the needs and the point where the product or the company is. So yeah, something like that.
Interesting. Any other opinions? Maybe from people that are not our, I would say VIPs here, like Pratik. For example, Selim or Pavel or Tiago or Shahid. You're all invited.
Yes, Andre.
I think I will go with the one on top because it still has the order, but it has the objective very well centered. But I will use less steps. I think there are too many in both of them.
Okay. If there are not any other initiatives, I don't want to really push you guys. I know it's a Friday. In my opinion, what bothered me in the first one was that the testing was defined very late, for my opinion. And if this is something that me and many other founders that have developed tech products are aligned on, is testing in every phase of your product roadmap. And I don't just mean the product itself, but even the idea of it. So for me, testing there was way too late. I agree that there are many steps. This is why, for example, my visualization of the product roadmap had only 4, because I think those are the 4, I would say, main pillars. And it's clear that after that, you're dealing more with commercialization, which is another story. It goes more into the business development part and marketing. But what I liked, for example, and this is one of the questions from Sijo, should we analyze the market need before development? Yes, because you are development for the market, right? If you're developing something that doesn't belong or can't enter a certain market, and also you're going always to be asked, always, what are your markets and how big are your markets? It's a typical question, I would say, when you're talking especially to investors, or even if you're applying for grants, it's part of your pitch deck to know the market size. So you should do your market analysis even before development. Exactly. So going back to the deck. I would like to give you now a little hands-on exercise. And as I see—
Maybe before the exercise, there are these 2 questions from Pratik.
Yes.
Yeah, so like, first of all, how do we do MVP testing and balance the IP considerations? That's a huge topic.
That's a tricky one. So the thing is, sometimes, depending on what you're developing, right? Sometimes you're clear when you have the idea what your patent could be about. Your patent lawyer will tell you the exact wording and tell you if you have a case or not. But you might have an idea in the beginning what your patent is going to be about. Or you start figuring it out once you're building the MVP and you see what works and what doesn't, and what features maybe you're focusing on now and what could be nice to have later and could even lead to another patent or a patent family, right? Because, for example, let's go back to a very caveman scenario, right? This is the first phone ever produced, but usually for consumables and the lifestyle stuff, you don't really have patents. For example, in fashion, you rarely have patents unless it's certain materials or processes. But let's say this is a rectangular that we found out could become a phone. And this is like the first patent. And the add-on is that it has a camera. And that's like another feature that can be patented. And another one is that this box that is a phone and has a camera can also be used for, you name it. And that's another thing. What's not complicated is the best way to do it is to, first of all, always have non-disclosure agreements, whether it's with people that provide you with materials and you need to talk to about your technology because, well, you want them to help you the best they can, if it's not just a purchase thing. If you're hiring people in their contract, that should be that. If you're cooperating with universities, be careful. Most of them are very, I would say, protective because it's a reputation thing as well for them to have as many patents. And of course, they also monetize on that. So usually what happens to spin-offs, so ideas that are born in universities and then become companies, is that the university owns the patent. Be careful of that as well. If it depends what your strategy is as a entrepreneur, as a company, as a startup. If you're okay with paying the patent fee for X years and then you buy it, fine. If you can have your own patent, which also plays best in the eyes of the investors and grants, then go for that. So it really depends on what you're building, but NDAs being, I would say, careful in that stage really helps. And your patent filing will not happen once all the iterations and optimizations have happened. I would say at least for the core function to be secured. But I also know people that have started the patenting process also just by having an idea that they could somehow produce a technical drawing on or do some specifications with the help of a very good lawyer. So honestly, this is really depending on the product you're building. I don't know if it answers your question. Pratik, do you have a question on the question or on the answer?
No, it does. Yes. I mean, so we are falling in the later one because we could build the technology on the existing data first. I mean, we are into cancer precision medicine. So, but then, so then when the problem is when we are now engaging with the stakeholders, some of the stakeholders like hospitals and all, we have to be very, very careful about divulging our IP position because first 2 years we were restricted by our IP attorneys not to disclose anything. I mean, just to protect the invention because we have found out something novel in the cancer treatment side. But then now as we go, I think at some point we have to take that risk of doing an NDA and speaking to big leaders who are working in this area. So it's a very tricky balance that we have to achieve every time when we select that we want to engage with some hospitals or cancer research centers or cancer researchers working in the, yeah.
I believe you. And of course, the bigger the players, the more resources they have, the higher your risk of betraying your invention without actually wanting it. I believe you. It was for us also very, very difficult to find that balance. And also another question from what I see is it better to launch a product once a patent is secured? I mean, for such cases, for example, yes, right? Because then you could just go and talk to the big players without all these paranoias and actually not paranoias, they're righteous fears. But define product and define launch. What is it launching? Is it, for example, going and talking to potential early adopters? Is the product the fully certified a fully researched and developed thing, or are we talking again about the MVP?
We are talking about the MVP.
Is it something that leaves the house or something that is at the customer site and works there?
So it's basically, I mean, giving an oncologist or a doctor who is deciding about the cancer treatment plan a complete understanding about what should be the treatment roadway for the person. Where currently there are lots of gaps. We are planning from end to end journey from the first day when the patient is diagnosed with cancer to the treatment planning, which would best suited to that person on that.
So you are, I would say, for sure B2B from what I understand, and it's something data driven and a software, I suppose.
Yes, there is. It's genomics and software. We are combining two big technologies. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice. In that case, I would make sure, as I said, for us, in my experience, the medium-sized companies were really the sweet spot because they are big enough to pay, but small
yeah,
enough to not want to deal with another technology apart from whatever they already have, and another activity from what they already have because they lack those resources.
yeah,
So the predatorial concept there is, I would say, much smaller than if you talk to big pharma or and actually I have less experience with clinics and how they are to that regard. I know they have so many pressing problems to solve day-to-day routines. So I think they're the customers with the burning hair. In that case, talking to them and pitching the solution and saying that it's something that you can already present, if that's the case, right? If you have already an MVP, and giving
yeah,
them a taste of that, and then secure it with NDAs, because with an NDA, there's nothing you can do wrong. It's a very simple legal document that has your back covered every time. And then also if you end up in court, well, the luck is, and the thing is on your side.
yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Welcome. Sorry to the other guys if the biotechies started bioteching. But okay, Selim, who worked with patent office and work with application. Define the loopholes. Can you elaborate more on what the loopholes were, for example?
They can find some other way by, how to say, bypassing our patent application. Similar way to do the same thing. So like, so I call it loopholes, like so we need to think that how to protect better the application.
Just to make sure we are on the same page, do you mean by loopholes that other people might have similar approaches to it?
No, they can see our method.
Okay. So
And then they can find some
leaks, basically. Leaks.
Yes.
How then it depends how was the process? Did you have, for example, a patent lawyer? How were you preparing the patent? Usually
Yes, with patent office, but yes, they are experiencing patent, but this is technological, so they don't have all the information. Although we explain them deeply, they took video when I explain, so to understand the process, but still they are not super experienced on the field. so they can't advise to us in the technical field, but they know the process, the patent process.
This is difficult. I mean, of course, what happens is you are the engineers, but you're not the lawyers. So you know your device, you can produce the best technical drawing of it. You can try to make them understand what one means and how these parts play together, and also what the application is, right? How can it be used, the materials, the novelty of it. And you need someone on the other side that, I'm not saying they need to be engineers, although, for example, in Austria, it's not uncommon that a lot of people that have finished their PhDs on some sort of scientific or engineering fields then become patent lawyers and have that as a, sorry, as an expertise. So let's say I could take everything that has to do with organ on chips or artificial organs under my wing, because, you know, this is my expertise, and I understand both the scientific and the legal perspective, and these people are the best help you can get. So this goes part where you should not be fast and cheap when choosing the people you work with, and not just your close team, but also, I mean, they sound like they're not the right people for the job. You should be very, I would say you should trust your patent lawyer, because they are your right hand in the process. And at the end of the day, you're also spending money on them, and you want that advice to be justified and to lead to you actually having one headache less, not one headache more.
Okay, thank you.
So my advice would be, change your patent lawyers if you can. Look for better ones. And also think, because again, it costs different amounts of money when you go for example, national, European countries. Think also of that. And this is why you need to, back to one of the questions, do your market analysis before you develop, because that also translates to what countries your IP should be for.
Actually, you can apply local and also extend the patent in different countries, like in US or in Europe. You can do it for whole Europe, but it is problematic, because if one country refuses, it is not covered. So in Europe, you have to go country by country to lower the risks. And actually, our patent advisor said like it may be better to apply in US, because in patent, the government side of the patent office, he says sometimes people should also understand very well what you are doing, and maybe US better place, so they can understand what you are doing, more better technical people to go through your patent, so they can understand the difference. So you may get the patent easily, like that. He said like this, but in US it is super expensive. So I just postpone it to spend more time on leaks or other problems we may face in the future. So we didn't make the application, just waiting to make it the correct way.
I completely understand, and I still think you need maybe another legal advice on top of what you have. It's never bad to have more than one opinion.
Yes.
And focus on, where does your patent have most of its potential, you know? Because, I mean, yeah, sorry.
Actually, when we apply for patent and when we finish our product, we will explain how it works. We don't want to other people not use it. Other engineers should use it freely, but we just want to for rivals. We are applying for patent for rival companies shouldn't use our method or should pay us.
It makes sense. And in the end of the day, I mean, you have a company, or are you a research group?
No, company.
You're a company.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I completely understand you, but it's like one of the things when building a business that you need to finish as early on as you can, at least that of the core product, because of course, at some point you might launch something else, the pipeline gets diversified and enriched, but you have so many things to deal with. You don't want to think who's stealing your patent. And honestly, people are going to get inspired. We also have a very righteous question about, the role of AI and how that's going to change the proprietary landscape. Honestly, I think we don't know yet. Who knew, what was it, 2 years ago, that our lives could get so much easier on one hand with ChatGPT and all its cousins and siblings, but at the same time, so difficult depending on what, I mean, for teachers, for example, or for lecturers, or even when you're doing marketing. It's so easy for people to have, I would say, good formulations, but not reflect that in their day-to-day intellect. So honestly, I think we're still about to see how all of this is developing. But what I wanted to say, Selim, is just that not just for your competitors, but to strengthen your business case and for you to focus on business and not waste resources for a long time with the IP.
Yes, we stop it and focus on the business at the moment because it takes time.
It's necessary.
So, yeah.
It's what pays the bills and what keeps the business running. And this is why I say, if you have an IP case, try to file it as soon as possible. And honestly, I also know companies that don't really have an IP. Of course, you can have a business and not have a patent, right? There are so many different constellations. But in the world of technology, and where, again, when you want to differentiate yourself and survive in a very competitive landscape, patents are a first step to do so. But because, of course, hey, you can have a great patent, but suck in sales and marketing, and well, good luck with that. Okay,
Celine, we have also the question regarding AI in the chat, just like out of the curiosity. Maybe you have an opinion on that. I don't know if I should read it or you will just
go ahead, read it.
Yeah. So in today's world where you can literally train your AI on proprietary data, so like overall, the case of, for example, Ghibli Studio from recent ones, so not limited to games and movies, just like, your opinion. I mean, I guess that the question was regarding your opinion on overall AI and like patent check, or like also training on your primary data that is not open or published, and will it make sense? I think it's more, like a case like they do AI on premises, kind of that sort of thing, so within certain outline. So have you met such cases? Do you think it's going to work? Do you think it's going to be more popular, especially, I mean, in deep tech, of course, when we speak about yes,
and I will just add to it, and thank you for vocalizing it.
Please do so.
So basically,
maybe start with the inspiration for the question, apart from Studio that we all saw trending. What was it, a few weeks ago?
Yeah, and it provides great results, but interesting how, and obviously how it was trained. Yeah, but the thing is that usually, and especially in US, you're using some kind of court rules. Yeah, and if you will go to court and say, oh yeah, my proprietary technology was copied, and your defendant or somebody will tell, there's entire Ghibli studio or something was copied and pasted to internet. We did literally nothing. You did literally nothing. Why should we be sued for something little on some limited data stack where it literally brings, I don't know, health to people and so on and so on. So from my perspective, and for me, it's SaaS. Yeah, it doesn't matter, but it's really interesting. It's even like law is applicable here, or it's let them sue us, and that's it.
I think it goes even a layer deeper than that, and I think that I mean, in that case, ChatGPT, because the images in that were produced with Chat, I think it's a big milestone for them to be able to have an answer to such questions. I think it's their responsibility as the providers, but of course, the one on top of that being, the politics of the certain country, in that case, I mean, the US, or what is it, the other one, the Chinese one, help me with the name.
DeepSeek, yeah.
Thank
DeepSeek.
you.
Yeah, and
DeepSeek.
Quen.
Yeah, and all the other, I would say, newcomers and where they're based and where they're being operated. I think it's something between them and also the state, and how the ethics of AI in our daily lives is going to be regulated. I think we are just at the beginning of that. As I said, it has made our lives better and easier in many aspects. I know AI, for example, is being used to write grant applications at the moment. It's actually an Austrian initiative of some fellow colleagues that are saying, well, it takes so much time. Certain grants have certain prerequisites, and we know them, and we have trained the models with that. Can you imagine? For me, it feels like cheating. Like 2 years ago, when I started writing those grants, I was working, I'm not kidding you, 18, 19 hours a day. And the outcome was such a huge success because you knew every point and every comma and every word you put in there was your knowledge, was your formulation. And nowadays, you just do it in a much more simpler way, which is great, but it means that these grant authorities can't judge the same way they did before. They need to figure out what aspects are coming from AI and what are the human aspects that we can judge the quality and goodness of this project on. So I think your question is a very good one, but I think it's still in the process. I think there must be a solution, but what the solution will be. And I think it takes a lot of politics into that as well, that should reflect, the democracy, meaning we should somehow, if possible, right, decide how much we want to let AI into our lives and where and how can we make our lives easier without leading to an idiocracy and to a system where there is no human autonomy anymore, right? And it's so difficult to be authentic and to protect your, I would say, your endeavors and your businesses at some point, right? From that, especially when it comes to the creative industries. I think that's so difficult.
Okay, let's move on, because I believe that the drama by the end is needed.
Yeah.
We need to kind of switch but anyways,
I'm also thinking
suggesting
we will, Irina, sorry, we will not have time for
we will not have time, exactly.
We had time 20 minutes ago, we will not have time, and I think it's also okay. I would rather use the left, I don't know what it is, 10 minutes or something, for a 5-minute break for everyone before your mentoring sessions, to go through any questions that you might have from this session. Pratik, your hand has been raised and very long.
No, I just wanted to add to Salim's question, where he had challenges with the IP attorneys. So one thing, as a biotech company, we always ask that apart from the attorney, we need a sector experts who can work with us. So you can also ask for sector experts who would definitely help in that area. So he or she can be the person who would liaise with the IP attorney and you. And most of the IP firms have that sort of facility over there. And in terms of like AI, I mean, what I feel is that if all data, I mean, for example, a lot of life sciences data is there on AI already, but then I think at some way there would be a solution because, for example, we are very conscious that our IP protected data, we use AI, but we use internal model. We don't expose anything to the external AI because otherwise then there's no point of having IP over there. So there would be in AI, what I see is that in many industry, there would be data islands where they are created internally within the organizations, only where they use AI for their functional capabilities, but not a generic AI over there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pratik, for this addition.
All right. Any more questions or comments, or just feel free, yeah, because we're not doing the exercise. Well, that's a pity on the one hand, but I think it's a very good sign that the topic is livable and we're going with the flow, so to speak. If you have like the slides with a sum up, maybe you can just go there. Okay, so you're just like
Sure, for sure. I mean,
I love your call to action here.
I mean, from what I could hear from some of you, of course, you already have or have built the MVP and are perfecting it and thinking of the next step. So I hope, I mean, for those of you that were more advanced into the timeline, I hope it was a double check of what you maybe already have done or maybe what you could add. And for those of you in the process of it, I hope that it gives you, I would say, a good overview. But as I said, it's so different. And one tech product is different from another tech product. It's highly individualized how you decide to go about building it. But for me, it was also about sharing with you all my experience, not just as an engineer, but also as someone that has gone through these steps and all my learnings. So yeah, I hope it was enjoyable. Hope I didn't make you too hungry with the pistachio baklava cheesecake, whatever. And I hope you all have a great Friday and weekend ahead.
All right. So then, yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop a message in the chat. We have still like 5 minutes. Well, all the thank yous. And of course, I wouldn't be myself if I wouldn't just suggest straight ahead to open these in your bookmarks and then to fill in the feedback form, because it's also very important for us to know what have you learned and or what are you starting to reflect upon? Let's put it like that. All right. Well, then with this being said, also we have, as Ify has mentioned, and I also briefed Ify that some of you has these one-to-one mentorship calls straightly in 9 minutes. So I think that we can wrap the session overall right now, and then whomever is coming and do not have individual arrangements, then I will see you with the same link here back in 9 minutes. Thank you so much. No, Pratik, no apologizing. I think it was a very good testing, training, reflecting point for everyone. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Irina. Thank you, all of you, and good luck. Yeah, maybe see you another time. Bye. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.